We want to show you a game-changing hand drill fire trick that'll greatly increase your chances for success when materials are scarce out in the wild. This method finally solves one of the great dilemmas for hand drill fire makers. We can't wait to show you how we do it. You ever picked a random place in the wild and attempted to make a hand drill fire right on the spot using only the materials around you? If you have experience with this, you know it takes just the right materials in the right conditions to have success. For example, you may come across the perfect size of drill for a hand drill, but it's still live, moist, and growing green. Or conversely, you might find one that's dead and dry, but it's too narrow, too short, too crooked, too degraded, wrong variety, etc. Well, we have a workaround for you, and it could be a lifesaver. So you probably already know that hand drills should be straight, or as straight as possible, but it's very common that the good straight shoots, for example on a willow tree, are still alive and green at the time when you want to use them for a drill. That's why we harvest and dry our materials ahead of time, as did the primitive inhabitants of this region, rather than leaving it to chance whether or not just the right materials will be in the location where we need a fire. But several decades ago, we had this thought. You know, we only need the very bottom of the drill to be dead and dry. What if, in an emergency situation, we attached a small dead foreshaft to a green straight shoot? Now that would eliminate the need for finding that dream hand drill that meets the perfect criteria. Now you might ask here, well, why not just make a drill out of whatever the dead wood source was that you used to make the foreshaft? Well, that would be fine, except for the fact that it's often very difficult to find a long enough, straight enough dead shoot, especially in drier, high desert types of environments, right at the time and location where you need a fire. But with this method that we call the compound drill method, you only need to cut a small dry section of any dead wood that works for friction fires, and then insert and bind it to a longer straight shoot, no matter how green or moist that shoot is. It's actually been a few years since we've had to try this because we always harvest and dry our drills way ahead of time. But for education's sake, let's get out and remind ourselves how well this compound drill method works. We'll start by finding the perfect drill with the right diameter and length. We're not worried at all about how green it is. Our only concern here is that it's straight enough and long enough and that it feels comfortable in our hand. We're making a thin slit in the bottom of this green drill that we can insert and bind a dead foreshaft into. Now choosing the foreshaft is where we do need to be a bit more picky because we can't just use any random dead wood. It needs to be from a source that we would typically use that's acceptable for friction fires. We like to use cedar, maple, willow, cottonwood, ocean spray, 9-bark, juniper, and there's several others. Now we only need a few inches of length here, but we don't want it too short because we want to get multiple uses out of it, and every pass you make down on the drill shortens the end a little bit. Now 9-bark isn't one of the stronger cordage materials, so we're twisting and wrapping it first, but stronger barks and fibers like stinging nettle don't necessarily need to be wrapped first. Here we're using stinging nettle fibers and just doing a light twist here and there as we wrap it around. Cedar is always our favorite for a fireboard, but we also use maple, willow, and other varieties. Cedar trees often have low-hanging dead branches that are easy to split and can commonly be found in a wide enough diameter for a fireboard. Now just a quick refresher here on our hand drill 101. We want to apply downward and inward pressure on the drill, keeping a steady pace and watching for the first sign of secondary smoke, which will come from the bottom of the notch when an ember is formed. When I first started hand drilling, I always felt like I was guessing when enough was enough. It wasn't until I learned to watch for the secondary smoke coming from the notch that my success rate went much higher. Before the ember forms, there's going to be smoke swirling around everywhere, but the smoke coming from the top of the notch around your drill does not necessarily indicate that there's an ember. I like to blow lightly down on the notch as I'm drilling so I can see where the source of smoke is coming from, and as soon as I see secondary smoke coming from the bottom of the notch directly from my pile of char dust, I know it's okay to stop drilling. If you follow us already, you know that we do most of our projects entirely primitive, but so far in this one we've used our Benchmade knife, which, by the way, is now leading the pack in our collection for strongest, sharpest, and most versatile knife, and it's not even close. But what if we didn't have a knife? We feel it's critical to know how to survive without modern tools, and for us it all starts with some rock hunting. Saws, knives, choppers, mauls, engravers, all sitting in plain sight if you know what you're looking for. We need tools that can cut our drill, split the end, cut a foreshaft, and saw a notch. It's sure faster with a knife, but nothing could be more satisfying than accomplishing the same task using stone tools. So what exactly are we looking for when searching for rocks that can be made into tools? Well, we look for rocks that have a different color hidden in the abundance of gray basalt rocks. Stones that might have a slight shine or slicker appearance, which in many cases indicate a stone that is more dense. Also, the darker colored basalt stones typically are more dense as well and make great candidates for potential tool sources. But sometimes the only way to really know for sure is to just start breaking stones to see how difficult they are to break. Many times the flakes that come off barely need any modifications at all and can be used in their rough state without any refinement. In the most ideal circumstance, the flake which comes off can be used for a small saw, and the rock it flaked off of can then be used as a chopping stone. Now, when we first thought of this idea, it came out of necessity. We needed to solve a problem. And after we first had success with it, we felt like maybe we had invented it. But like many things that we discovered for ourselves out of necessity, we're pretty confident that this method had to have been done in primitive times, but we are still yet to see a demonstration of someone doing it in this exact fashion. We've looked through books and all over the internet, scouring YouTube and other sources, and have seen a few similar concepts, such as inserting a foreshaft into something hollow like river cane, but not this exact design which we call the compound drill, which in our opinion is the most versatile and practical solution to a very common problem. Wilderness Strong, Bushcraft, Nature, Ethnobotany, and Wilderness Survival. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you don't miss more content like this coming soon. Thanks for watching.